I am going to cover in this program different features of private foundations, which may include primary purpose of private foundation, features of private operating foundations, features of exempt operating foundations, features of grant making, and non-operating private foundations, what sets private foundations apart from non-operating ones, tests to qualify as private operating foundations, and many other features I'm going to discuss in this program, which may help to those who are planning to register the non-profit organization and they want to know what are the benefits of the private foundations, features, characteristics, and the tax advantages. This is Nashimar, the CEO of InfoTaxSquare.com. We are a team of CPAs and EAs. I request attorneys, tax preparers, taxpayers, entrepreneurs, students, economists, and the most important politicians who create laws to subscribe to my channel to receive the most up-to-date and accurate tax information to enhance their knowledge. What is the primary purpose of a private foundation? For tax purposes, it is crucial to distinguish between private operating foundation, exempt operating foundation, and grant making or non-operating private foundation. Certain private foundations are covered by certain tax laws and provisions, while others are not. The organization exemption letter will reveal if they are classified as a private foundation, a private operating foundation, or an exempt operating foundation. So the letter, which will be issued by the Internal Revenue Service, will reveal the benefits and the features of the exempt organization, whatever it is registered, however it is registered as a operating, non-operating, private, or exempt foundation. The number of private operating foundations and exempt operating foundations are relatively low to navigate tax obligations and benefits. It is crucial to understand the difference between these types of foundations, and I'm going to explain or go over on each type of foundations and their characteristics and tax benefits. What are the features of a private operating foundation? It participates actively in its own charitable, educational, or other exempt activities, which receives certain tax advantages that are not available to public charities, such as the ability to avoid certain excise taxes on investment income. An elementary school is an example of a private operating foundation. What are the features of exempt operating foundations? It executes its own exempt activities but meets the criteria for exemption from certain tax provisions. Some excise taxes that are typically applied to private foundations are exempted from tax features. Medical research organizations are one example of an exempt operating foundation. What are the features of grant making, non-operating private foundation? Its primary activity is to provide grants to other organizations instead of running its own programs. To maintain their tax exempt status, tax features must follow specific requirements such as annual payouts obligations. A family trust that provides funding for various public charities is one of the examples of grant making, non-operating private foundation. What constitutes private foundations apart from non-operating ones? To claim tax benefit, it is crucial to comprehend the distinction between an operational foundation and a non-operational foundation. I'm going to share here a few characteristics to find out the difference between the non-operating foundation and the operating private foundations. Operating foundations manage their own programs, while non-operating foundations primarily provide funding to others. Although private operating foundations are subject to the same restrictions and requirements as private foundation, there are tax advantages to being classified as a private operating foundation. If a donor makes charitable contributions to a private operating foundation, they can receive a higher charitable deduction limit on their tax return. Private operating foundations that are exempt from taxes are known as exempt operating foundation. The excise tax on net investment income that applies to other operating and grant making foundations does not apply to them. A foundation of this type must have been publicly supported for at least 10 years and have a board that is broadly representative. But disqualified persons have limited participation. This is an extremely uncommon type of private operating foundation. Some examples of operating foundations are J. Paul Getty Trust, Cassie Family Programs, and Open Society Institute, Baltimore. The Ford Foundation, Gates Foundation, and Rockefeller Foundation are private foundations that do not operate. What qualifies, or what are the tests to qualify as a private operating foundation? In order to be considered a private operating foundation, an organization must meet one of three specific requirements. Number one, the assets test. Number two, the support test. And number three, the endowment test. Additionally, it must show that it distributes at least 85% of the lesser of its adjusted net income or its minimum investment return directly towards activity that further its exempted purposes. To pass this test, number one, to pass the asset test, the foundation must use most of its assets directly for its charitable activities. Number two, to pass the support test, a significant portion of the foundation's support must come from the general public and government units. Number three, to pass the endowment test, the foundation must make qualifying distributions that are substantial portion of its adjusted net income or minimum investment return. These criteria, what I have discussed above, that assure the foundation is actively engaging in its charitable mission instead of just acting as a grant making entity, which is a non-operational foundation. Now I have entered in the final part of this program, which is features of a non-exempt private foundation. I'm going to share a few features, then I will finally share the advantages and disadvantages of the non-exempt charitable trust. So I'm going to start with the features of non-exempt private foundation. Number one, in the event that a non-exempt charitable trust does not get tax exempt status under Section 501c3, it can still be considered a private foundation if it meets certain conditions. Number two, one or more charitable purposes are the only one it is dedicating its unexpired interest to. Number three, tax deductible charitable contributions have been permitted. Number four, in this scenario, even though the trust is not officially recognized as tax exempt under Section 501c3, it operates similarly to a private foundation in terms of its charitable activity and the tax treatment of contributions it receives. The final point of the features of non-exempt private foundation is this classification ensures that the trust remains compliant with tax regulations and continues to serve its intended charitable function effectively. Now I'm going to share a few advantages and disadvantages of non-exempt charitable trust. Number one, despite not having the same tax exempt status as 501c3 organization, non-exempt charitable trusts still have several advantages. Number two, donors can claim income, gift, and estate tax deduction for contribution made to the trust. Number three, a variety of charitable purposes, including religious, educational, scientific, literary, and more, can be supported by these trusts. Number four, they provide a structured way to support charitable causes and make a positive impact on society. Fifth and the last point of this topic is a steady income stream for donors or their beneficiaries can be beneficial for retirement planning through charitable remainder trusts. No exempt, no exempt charitable trusts are a valuable tool for those who want to balance philanthropic goals with financial planning due to their advantages. Now, let me summarize before I close this program what we have covered. We have covered primary purpose of private foundation, features of private operating foundation, features of exempt operating foundation, features of grant making non-operating private foundation, what sets private foundations apart from non-operating ones, test to qualify as a private operating foundation, features of non-exempt private foundation, and finally we discuss the advantages and disadvantages of a non-exempt charitable trust. Thank you and God bless you.